What's up, people? My name is Shaggy, the trying to survive in 108 degree, 112 heat index heat here in Texas in the middle of summer. If you have plans to visit Texas anytime soon, don't. Um, Reviewing and ranking Grateful Dead's Dick Picks. I'm doing them in groups of six because their art packaging, like 1 through 6, had its own theme, 7 through 12. This group has its own theme, except for number 25, which I think I think this also might have come out. No, it didn't come out in 2003. I think it came out. But for Dick's Picks 25, we get this special, like, rose thing with, there's Dick himself holding up the reels. And then every other one in this had this kind of really generic sort of, mail packaging type thing with the stamp. And the stamp was the thing that sort of indicated, I think the stamp is different on each one, kind of indicating where it's from. Other than that, the design is not that much different. Why this is Oakland, I'm not sure. Yeah, we have a train station. There was a train station in downtown Oakland, but I would never think of a train as a defining Oakland feature. But anyways, so I'm ranking them in groups of six. I'm going to do like 1 through 6 for I'm now on 25 through 30. After I talk about these six in like a little more detail, I will then just show you my list of all 30, where they rank so far, and then I will rank the dark stars. I do think we have two more dark stars that pop up in this. I think we have two in every group of six, right? So maybe three in this group. But anyways, that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, that's it. And then when I'm done, you tell me why I'm wrong, or if any, whatever. You know how this works. We're all grown up YouTubers. We're all here for a reason. Anyways, I'm just rambling. The heat affects your brain in negative ways, people. So we'll see if I can make it through this. All right. Anyways, on to number 6 of 25 through 30, Grateful Dead, Dick's Picks, me ranking them. Oh, I started this channel to discuss only things Frank Zappa related. I've literally done almost everything he's officially released. Almost everything. Not everything. I am going to still rank the musicians per mini request, like rank the drummers, rank the bass players. My favorite, personally. Obviously, that's the only way you can do something like that. So that will be coming down the line, probably after I have one more group I'm going to touch upon after the Grateful Dead. So we are going back to Zappa, but I've expanded Zappa's concept of the big note to include things that musically Frank references or lyrically Frank references, and he references the Dead on a song called Teenage Wind on You Are What You Is. Check it out. It's the opening track if you want to hear the connection for yourself, but that is why. And I've already done the Dead's albums and all that stuff. So anyways, on to number 6 in this group. Number 6 is 12/16/92. This is volume number 27. This is an Oakland Coliseum show, the one I showed you earlier. I was at this show. I was there. I'm pretty sure if you listen closely, you can hear me go, yeah, between the songs. And it is actually likely that you can hear me yelling because, one, I sometimes did yell, and two, at the Oakland Coliseum and at a lot of venues on the West Coast, I don't know if they did this on the East Coast. I didn't go to a lot of shows on the East Coast, or if I did, I had seats. But on the West Coast, we had GA. Almost all the shows were GA, other than say like the amphitheater shows. And you would get there at the Coliseum at like 6 in the morning. I want to say it might have been 7 in the morning, and they would give out numbers. I think they gave out 50 numbers, might have been 100. So you would line up at like 5:30, at 6 o'clock, or line up at 6:30. At 6 o'clock, you would randomly draw numbers, and then prior to the show, they would let these 50 people, or 100, I think might have been 100, they would let us in first. And so anytime there were shows at the Oakland Coliseum, I and a couple others would take turns being there in the morning to get our numbers, and then we'd race in, and we would usually end up either like on the rail, or pretty close to the rail. And we like to be in the fill zone, so we'd usually be right in front of Phil. So there is a good likelihood that one of those voices, if it was picked up by a stage mic, is me yelling. Whatever. For whatever that's worth. But yeah. 92 show. I think this is our first show with Vince Welnick on keyboards, but not Bruce Hornsby. Hornsby was not at these shows. Really good set list, but I don't think the set list delivers the goods that we would expect from this set list. First set, kind of short. You get a Feel Like a Stranger opener. I don't think it's one of the best Strangers, considering the Without a Net Stranger, which is like, oh, this is kind of a disappointing Stranger. And then the second song is Brown Eyed Woman, which to me is like the first set. You have the opening salvo, which is usually typically in this era, a Feel Like a Stranger, into either a Sugary or into a Franklin's Tower. Feel Like a Franklin's was a common pairing. Brown Eyed Woman is like your middle third set song. So for Jerry to jump into that second, you already feel like, okay, we're missing a rotation of songs here. Bob comes back with the same thing. The cover, I think it's a Willie Dixon cover, right? I don't like the Dead's version of the same thing. I don't think this version goes anywhere at all. Just kind of treading water. Don't think there's anything interesting in this. It just kind of bores me. We get a nice Loose Lucy. We get a nice Stuck Inside a Mobile. We get a pretty chill Row Jimmy. We get an okay, not the best Let It Grow. A good Let It Grow. They kind of jam it out pretty well, but it just doesn't reach the heights of some of the greatest Let It Grows that we have. And we have a lot of Let It Grows in the Dick's Pick series. Highlight of, I think, the entire disc is probably the Shakedown Street. It's a pretty solid Shakedown Street. I am a fan of Shakedown Street. I don't think the Shakedown Streets of the Welnick era ever reached the heights of like the Midland era. I really like the energy Midland brought to a lot of Shakedown jams. This one's okay. But then we get a Samson. We get a Ship of Fools. We get a pre-drums playing in the band. That is a okay jam, but it doesn't really go anywhere. That goes into Drums in Space. Then out of Space, we get a Dark Star. It's only like 8 or 9 minutes. It's essentially they played Dark Star several days earlier, I think at the opening run of this show, the opening show of this run. And so they play this and they only sing the second verse. So we get the completion of the Dark Star, like I think 4 days, 3 shows later. Not really sure. I didn't look either. So, but I do know they played it like several days earlier to sort of, I think, the opening show of the run. Pre-drums. And so we get an Out of Space Dark Star that really kind of doesn't go anywhere. It almost feels like it's the rest of a play-in jam, and it seems like it would have made more sense to go back into a play-in reprise. But they go into Dark Star. It's kind of disappointing. Jerry sings the second verse, which, you know, pretty rare that we get second verses. That goes into something that I actually think is better than the Dark Star. The All Along the Watchtower is pretty fire in this version, which is sad to say that the Dead's cover of All Along the Watchtower is better than their version of Dark Star, but I kind of think it is. Then we get a pretty solid Stella Blue, then a Good Lovin', which I'm not a fan of. Then we get a Casey Jones, which they brought back as an encore in like the Welnick era. So it's kind of nice to hear Casey Jones. And then one of the more interesting things on this is there were bonus tracks from the show the following night. We get a Throwing Stones. I'm always in for a Throwing Stones. Pretty good Not Fade Away. Then the encore that night was the Baba O'Reilly Tomorrow Never Knows combination, which I think is more interesting on paper than it is in actual execution. It was a fun song to hear once. Definitely didn't change. I definitely don't think this is a better version than any other version I've heard of these songs, but it was interesting, and at least they're trying to mix things up. But ultimately, I don't think the set list on this in any way matches the performances. It's nice to have a 92 show, but I can't say this is something I ever reach for and listen to. And of the shows I have ever seen in my life, which I saw quite a lot of them, the only ones I've ever listened to are the ones that have been officially released. Like, I still have never reheard the very first show I ever saw because I'm like, I want those experiences to stay up here. And like, I have incredible memories of what they did that on that night. I don't want to listen to a show and go like, oh, like I walked away from this show thinking it wasn't very good at the time, despite the set list. When this came out, I thought, oh, I'm going to find myself wrong. No, I was pretty right. And I do think maybe the Watchtower might be the highlight of this. But yeah, that's it. Number 6 is 12/6/92 Oakland Coliseum. On to number 5. Number 5 is volume 25, the fancy cover. And this is the majority of 2 shows from 1978, May 10th and May 11th, 1978. 78 was like reminds me of like, I'm a Spurs fan, San Antonio Spurs basketball. And like, it reminds me of particularly like the first half of the seasons after they had won the championships, particularly in like '03, '05, and '07. That middle run when it was like the same group of core players. When the first half of the season, like they were still winning games, they were still well above 500, somewhere up at like a 700 winning percentage. Amazing under the Popovich years. But we're still under the Popovich years. I just got a message. But anyways, and they would still win these games, but unlike when they were like had the pedal to the metal, like those eras, like the second half of those seasons, like the end of the first quarter they'd be up by 5, by the half they'd be somewhere near 10, going into the fourth quarter they'd be up by like 15 and it would be over. During those like times when they were like kind of cruising, they had won the championship, that drive is not there as much as it used to be. It would take until like 6 minutes left in the game before they like put the pedal to the metal and started to pull away. Like, okay, they're going to win this. This feels like 78 is like the year where like 76, the Dead came back strong. He kind of reinvented themselves in a lot of ways. 77, arguably the best year, the best run they ever had. 78 was kind of like, we're just going to chill a while. We know we're good. We know we can turn it on when we want to. We're just going to play. And there's a lot of 78 shows that are, when you're listening to them, they're good. Like they're not bad. Maybe a little sloppy. Maybe vocals are getting a little sloppy. But there are always those moments where they can just kind of turn on the jam and have like these brief spurts of utter brilliance. These two shows are really nice because they catch the band having a lot of fun, like especially with the vocals. Jerry's performances are amazing. Bob at one point, like especially during the first show, is like singing so hard he's making Donna like laugh, and she's like, you can hear her just like ha ha ha, like laugh and lose the vocals. Like the energy is incredible. Doesn't always translate to some great music. Like it translates to good music. Doesn't always translate to like epic jams, but the energy is just contagiously great. And I think that's the thing that kind of makes these shows really good. You got pretty much almost the entire first set for both of these. A couple songs I think were left off of each show. Typical stuff from this era. The highlights, I think, for me, especially on the CD one, which is the first show, really good Let It Grow. Still, we're in that really fast-paced, high-energy Let It Grow where it still feels like, hey, we're free from like Weather Report Suite. We can just like take off and jam. Pretty, really good high-energy Let It Grow. But then at the end of the first CD, you get the beginning of the second set, and the Bertha just has this like massive train wreck in the middle where for like 30 seconds to like 45 seconds, just like nothing is happening. It just post-solo train wreck. It's like Jerry goes back into like a verse or the chorus and he's not supposed to, and everybody just kind of loses it. It's kind of awkward. That's followed by A Good Lovin', which is never good. But then CD2, you get an Estimated Eyes, and the Estimated has that sort of like chill vibe, The Estimated is like what I find a lot of the solos are like the Estimateds, the Scarlets to some degree, some of the more like just those kind of jams, even the Plans to some degree, sometimes have a very, like Drugs and the Dead, obviously we know go together. They're not LSD jams, they're not psilocybin jams, they're not even we've had too many beers, we're going to rock out jams. They're like really strong, like indica jams where you're like just kind of on the couch and you want to just chill. Like if you've seen the movie Half Baked, there's the guy on the couch. A lot of 78 jams and a lot of the vibes are just like, hey man, I want to listen to some music, but I don't want it to be too much because I'm just going to sleep on the couch. So, and then those moments, there are moments like particular in these shows. The other one is particularly good. The Fire on the Mountain on the CD3 is particularly fire, especially with the vocals going on. They're like spurts of really, really high energy, but it almost seems to like drain the band. It's like the guy on the couch had to get up and make himself some food, maybe had to use the restroom, but when he's done doing those things, he's back on that couch and we're in chill zone. So that's the way I think a lot of these 78 shows go. And even this one, even though this one has a lot more highs than other 78 shows, it tends to be still like, we're always going to go back to this like chill level at some point because we can't push it for 2 solid hours like we used to. Of course, Jerry is partying. Keith and Don aren't getting along as well. So there were band problems, but you can hear it in the music. So anyways, CD2, Estimated Eyes. The Eyes is pretty good, but the core of this show is the other one coming out of drums. I think it's like a 16-minute other one. It really could have been a 9-minute jam into like a 7-minute other one, because there's like a 9-minute jam that's pretty chill that doesn't really get to any heights until we're about to jump into the other one. And you know it's going to go into the other one, but it's definitely not there yet. And once they go into it, like almost exactly at the 9-minute mark, it's like dun 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 dun. We're in it pretty hard, and then we jam pretty hard. But then we hit that second verse, and again we're just like, we're back into like chill zone, man. So the other one is probably the highlight, and then a really strong Wharf Rat follows. Really good solo in the Wharf Rat. Jerry seems to be pushing the envelope there. So that's nice. Then we go on to the CD3. We're on to the second show. Solid, excellent Cold Rain and Snow to opener. Some really good songs. A great loser. Jerry's vocal performances are really solid in here. The Lazy Lightning Supplication to end the first set is strong. The beginning of the second set is Scarlet Fire. That is on this disc. The Scarlet, again, is just kind of like Indica laid on the couch, but then the Fire is just like, fire is fire. Still only about 10 minutes long. The jams still aren't going really long exploratory places, but there's a lot of good energy in this. Second CD, we get a Dancing in the Streets jam that is pretty good. Dancing in the Streets jam, pretty fast, high energy. We get a really solid Not Fade Away out of drums, right? How long is this Not Fade Away? Remember, it was a pretty lengthy, like a good 10-minute. Good 10-minute Not Fade Away, some good energy. Again, not as epic as 77, but this is where the energy comes in. Then we get a Stella Blue, Around and Round. And then for the encore, we get a Werewolves of London, which it's nice to hear, but it's kind of rough. I definitely, if Keith had been more dun-dun prominent, I think it would work, but it's, I don't know, it's kind of a rough take. But anyways, yeah, so that's my number 5. Some really, really great moments, but for the most part, I think it's got a 78 malaise about it that seeps in maybe a little too often. But of the 78 shows, they picked a good one. My number 5, volume 25. Man, I talked a lot about this. On to number 4. Number 4 is volume 28. This is 2 shows from, I think both from, one from Salt Lake City, Utah, one from Lincoln, Nebraska in 1973, February 26th and February 28th. And this just falls to number 4 because 72 and 73 are generally, tend to be, at least as far as the releases have been, complete shows. This is almost complete, though we're missing some first set songs. I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure these are not complete. But there's a lot of songs and not a lot of jams. And so a lot of the jams are almost kind of feel self-contained, where you're not getting to these awesome segue fests that we would get by the end of 73 into 74. So we're like gearing up towards the epicness. So for me, this is one of the most, highly competent and played incredibly well, and the songs all sound great. Looking at the set list, it's not something I'm inspired to revisit all that often, though these are both excellent shows. 4 CDs, CD 1 and CD 3 are essentially first sets from each show. And then CDs 2 and CD 4 are more like the second sets. There are some interesting songs on here. We get like in CD 1 an early Don't Ease Me In the first set. We get a nice Loose Lucy, the early 73 before we get that later slower down Loose Lucy. We get a Big Railroad Blues. You can release all those. Really nice playing in the band. Like, we're not going to deep space yet, but these are when we're just the playing in the bands are like, you get the song and then you get 12 to 15 minutes of just solid jamming, like that jazz tinged. Everybody's kind of going their own direction, but heading in the same direction type jams. We get nice, fast, They Love Each Other's with the that extra verse in it, or I think it's a bridge, verse. We get, in each of those shows, we get a nice They Love Each Other in the first set. We got Shorter Sugarees back then. We get a Box of Rain. There we go. That's a big draw for this, a Box of Rain in the second show. El Paso, I'm always a fan of El Paso. Nice China Rider on CD3. But really for me, the draw is what happens in the second sets on CDs 2 and 4. CD2 opens up with a nice Greatest Story. Then we get a really good Dark Star that is pretty much, for the most part, a pretty straightforward, exploratory Dark Star that doesn't get into like the crazy weirdness till after we get the verse. That eventually goes into the Eyes of the World, which again is just just, yeah, man, you give me as many eyes of the world as you want. And that goes into a Mississippi half step. So we get a nice run of songs there. Then we get a Me and My Uncle right there in the middle of that second set, which is a very nice little random thing. Then we get a Not Fade Away, Going Down the Road, Not Fade Away to close out CD2. Solid performances, pretty great. Just as far as I'm concerned, there were better performances of these, but these are still really good performances. And then on the second CD4, you get a really strong truck into the other one, into Eyes of the World, into A Morning Dew. That's a nice run of performances right there. It's a pretty healthy other one, like a good 15-minute other one. And then we get a nice We Bid You Goodnight as an encore after a Sugar Magnolia. So there's some really solid, if not great, performances on here. But I do think the first three CDs are a lot of just like really well performed songs that we have on a lot of other things. And I don't think any of the singular performances, I don't think there's a single track on here that like elevates this to like, you have to hear this version of Dark Star or you have to hear this version of the other one. But they're all worth hearing. If you're going to take the time to hear them, you're not going to be disappointed. But I don't think they're must hears. But that's number 4, volume 28, 2 almost complete 73 shows. Number 3 is number 30. This is material from a couple shows in 1972 with us. One song from a third show, March 25th, March 28th, and then March 27th, the Playing in the Band. This has a whole bunch of stuff you're not going to find elsewhere, including a guest sort of Bo Diddley played with them, and you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Bo Diddley songs. And I can't say the Bo Diddley songs are like fire, but they have such a sweet vibe about them. We get Hey Bo Diddley, which is not the song Hey Bo Diddley. It's a different song. It's just called that. We get an I'm a Man. We get I've Seen Them All, which is just, that's just Bo Diddley, just like he is just in the groove. It is such a comfortable, awesome feel. Into a nice jam, into a Mona, just really great opener to the first disc. Then Bo Diddley leaves, and these are the songs we get from the Dead. We get a How Sweet It Is. We get a Are You Lonely For Me? And we get a Smokestack Lightning. So really good 72 songs. And then to close out CD1, we get a Playing in the Band that is just like, yes, it is a giant cherry on top of what is already an incredibly sweet first CD. Like if they had only released this CD, I think this would rank still pretty high because I think this is just like a phenomenal CD. Love the Bo Diddley stuff. Then the rest of it, I think might be the entirety of the 28 show. We had a massive first set. Like all of CD2 and half of CD3 is the stuff from the first set. Opens up with an incredible truckin'. We get a Chinatown Shuffle in there. We get a You Win Again. We get a Mr. Charlie. There's a Next Time You See Me. There's an Awesome Cumberland Blues, like among some other tracks, all on CD2. CD3 continues the first set. We got another Big Railroad Blues. We get an El Paso. We get a China Rider. And then we get a Casey Jones to close out the set. The second set, still on CD3, opens with a Playing in the Band. This Playing in the Band can't really even hold a candle to that first one, but it is still a really good Playing in the Band. Like, we're still in strong 72, 73 mode, just playing, having fun, exploring, but not getting too crazy, too far out there. And then, after a Sugary, we get The Stranger, Two Souls in Communion, probably the best song the Pigpen ever did, if you ask me. Absolutely wonderful to have this officially released. Love this song. And then CD4, we get a really strong Sugar Mag into the other one. We get a Hurts Me Too that's pretty good. We get another great Not Fade Away, going down the road back into Not Fade Away. And then it says Sidewalks of New York as a track list, but they're just messing around with that for like 10, 15 seconds before they go into the encore, which is One More Saturday Night. But this is one of those just incredibly well played from start to finish releases, 4 CDs. CD1 is, I think without a doubt the best part of this whole release, especially with that playing in the band thrown in there from the 27th. But the energy, the song selection, the really good Pigpen tracks that are in here, the balance of like Jerry, Bob, Pigpen, Jerry, Bob, Pigpen is really strong. And yeah, the performances are just excellent from start to finish. So yeah, another really good one. I think this one is much better than the previous three that have been in this group. I think so far this group of six has been the like that Utah release and that Lincoln, Nebraska release. Those were shows that were not heavily circulated. And I think the tapes that were in circulation from them were like heavily cut and short. So they were nice releases as far as giving, the listener something they didn't already have. But I don't think the quality was as good. This, we get a big jump in quality. And we're now getting to some much like incredibly great shows to my ears. Number four, is volume 30. There we go. No, this is this is number 3 because there's 6 CDs for number 1. Yeah, crazy. All right, on to number 2. Number 2 is volume 26. This is 2 shows, material from April 26th and April 27th, 1969, Chicago, Illinois, Minneapolis, Minnesota. I think like roughly the first 2/3 of CD1 is from the first show. The rest of CD1 and all of CD2 is from the second show. And this is just fantastic. 1969, it sounds great. The jams are great. The set list is great. Everything on this is absolutely phenomenal. It is high energy 1969 stuff. Dupree's Diamonds to open. Into a Mountains of the Moon. We get a China Cat without a rider still. We get a Doin' That Rag. We get a Cryptical Other One. Into the 11. Back into the other one. We get a cover of Jimmy Reed's I Know It's a Sin. We get a Turn on Your Love Light. Into a Me and My Uncle. The Me and My Uncle. I love the sound of Me and My Uncle. I don't know who it is. Is it Constantine? Yes. Constantin. Tom Constantin. I don't know how to say his name. Constantin on organ. His organ contributions in Me and My Uncle. Just a tiny little, it's like a pinch of salt. Flavors the thing entirely different. And then a Sitting on Top of the World to close out CD1. Then CD2, you just can't ask for anything better than CD2. You get a Dark Star, a 1969 26-minute Dark Star, into a St. Stephen, into the 11, into a Turn on Your Love Light with a Morning Dew as an encore. Like an almost perfect CD of music from the early Grateful Dead. I don't know what else to say about it other than it's absolutely fantastic. Again, sound quality is not as good as you would get, say, 2 years later and on. But still, the energy, just, you got Tom Constantine in the band. You still got Pigpen there doing his stuff. I don't think the Love Light is that long. It's only a 15-minute Love Light. So for those of you like me who don't want a 30-minute Love Light, we get half of that. And it's just, the set list is great. Like, this is like, I don't know, man. You just can't go wrong with this. Just utterly fantastic stuff. This is my number 2 out of this group of 6, volume 26. And my number 1 favorite from this group of shows, from this group of releases, is volume 29. 6 CDs, 2 shows, both one from Florida, one from Georgia, from 1977, May 1977, the 19th in Florida, 19th in Atlanta, and the 21st in Florida. Of the 2, I think the 19th might be the better show, though I think the 21st has better set lists, at least as far as my preferences go. But they're both just 77 Dead, which is just them at their absolute peak. CD1 is most of the first set, and the highlight anytime they played this in 77, and this arguably might be the best of these that have been released so far, though that's a hard argument to sell for any of them. A Sugary, we get a nice, just epic 16.5-minute Sugary. This is one of those that just like every time Jerry steps up with a solo between verses, it is epic, it is memorable, it is mind-blowing, it is Jerry just pushing the envelope as Jerry is wont to do during 77 Sugaries. fantastic sugary. The other highlights of this first set, Peggy-O, always a highlight. Really good Road Jimmy. Just Jerry's in the zone on this Road Jimmy. Get a nice passenger. Loser's always a winner. That's all we get on CD1. CD2 only has 4 songs, which, if you know the Dead by this point, it means they're secret hidden tracks. And yes, there are secret hidden tracks. But what is on the CD that you see listed, we get a Dancing in the Streets, pretty good 77 Dancing in the Streets, a Samson, Ramble on Rose, and then an Estimated Profit. But the hidden tracks on this CD are what is on this first CD? I always get them mixed up, which is on which. So this one has a Not Fade Away from October 11th, 1977, and this is a great Not Fade Away. They push this into some weird, funky places. It really just gets, I think there's this really strange like middle jam where Jerry's like, I'm pretty sure this is the Not Fade Away. They're playing this just weird riff that they kind of ride on, and then they go off into these weird directions, and just has some absolutely incredible energy in it. For a song that like, I think I've sought out like as many Not Fade Aways from this era as possible. This one still, after hearing so many others, like grabs me every time. Like this has some different energy in it. This is a really, really solid Not Fade Away. And that goes into a War Frat and around and around. And then CD3, you get the rest of the second set. You get a Terrapin Station, really strong playing in the band, goes into Uncle John's band, we get a drums, out of that comes the wheel, then we get a China Doll, always in for a China Doll, and then we finish off with like a 10-minute play and reprise, the nice healthy jam before we finish off the song. And that's the end of disc 3. Really solid show. Playing is excellent from start to finish. Nothing wrong with any of this. Second show, also pretty fantastic. Probably the highlight might be in the first set, oddly enough, but the second set is still pretty strong. What do we get on here? We get a Bertha, They Love Each Other, Jackaro. Jackaros in this era are always good. They always have a kind of like a chill opening where you kind of wish they would just ride that vibe before they jumped into the vocals. So it's got that nice chill opening. Another really good Road Jimmy on here. Jerry hits these Road Jimmies hard in 77. Then still in the first set, that's CD1, CD4, jump into CD5. We're still in set 1, and we get a Passenger, and we get a Scarlet Fire to end the first set. And the Scarlet might be the highlight on here. The Scarlet is pretty epic. It's got a nice little weird, slightly different, funkier jam in it. Goes into a pretty... This is not a Scarlet Fire that's as epic as some of the other ones from 77, but it has a different energy and a different flavor, and just kind of seems to explore a little bit of different avenues than maybe your more typical ones. Really strong Fire on the Mountain. And then the second set starts off, we get a Samson, we get a Brown Eyed Woman in the second set, we get a good Estimated Profit into He's Gone, a Drums, a pretty solid other one, out of Drums, a Comes a Time, maybe the best Comes a Time that I think we've had released so far. Just really nice where Jerry's taking his time, letting the song develop, letting it simmer. The vocals are there. The solo is just like, poignant and pointed, and Jerry's really careful about the notes he plays and just kind of lets that energy like just kind of build on its own, and just excellent Comes a Time. And then we get a St. Stephen, Not Fade Away, back into St. Stephen, and a One More Saturday Night. And then going back to CD5, which was just 5 songs, there is a hidden track on there too. It is a 2 hidden tracks. It is a Dancing in the Streets, which has a really good jam in it, a really weird energy about it. I don't know how to describe it. It's another one where both of these hidden tracks are songs that the Dead sort of like thrived with in 77, but these are versions which kind of explore different territories and go kind of different places. And like there's a little riff in Dancing in the Streets, which is just, I don't think I've heard it in other ones or don't remember, and it's just so good. The only problem with it is it goes into a Dire Wolf, which I'm not a fan of. But anyways, that's okay. But yeah, my number 1 out of this group of 6, 2 shows from 77, absolutely fantastic. Just the quality is so consistent from start to finish. I would say the highlights are probably that Scarlet Begonias, the whole run of the first show from the estimated and the Terrapin playing Uncle John's, all that run is fantastic. Comes a Time in China Doll, both of those are represented here. Yeah, and it sounds great. It sounds fantastic. And the hidden tracks are wonderful. Yeah, 77 shows from the Dead. Absolutely incredible. My number one, this is volume, sorry for yelling, this is volume 29. Got an alligator for Florida. Oh, we also get an alligator for Georgia. I don't think we got alligators as much in Atlanta, but all right, there we go. All right. And that is my ranking of 25 through 30. Here are my complete rankings right there. Out of this group, the one that made it the highest was those 77 shows, but still that only made it to number 9. I think this was by far the weakest group of 6 we've had so far. And if you look toward the bottom of the list, 27 is almost last, kind of saved by just having a stronger set list than number 9, maybe a couple bigger highlights, but still the disappointment of the Dark Star knocked it down there. And again, you got 25 at 25, 28 at 24, 30 at 17. So I think one of the reasons they fall that far down the list is because everything else is so ridiculously great. And this is what we got material going from like 68 all the way through like 92. So we're covering decades of live shows. But out of this run, the 77-29 was the highest. Plus, I really liked that 68 show. So that made it all the way up to 13. So, but for the most part, I think this might be the weakest group of 6. Though again, other than maybe volume 27, it's more weak compared to the others and not weak on its own, if that makes sense. And then switching over to the Dark Stars, there might be recency bias in this. I really like that 68 one on volume 26, and I really like that one on 28. What era was that? There was like a 72, right? Yeah, 73. I really like that 73 from 28. Kind of hard to pick, but I have that volume 27 way down at the end. Just my memories of being there at the time, getting another Dark Star, and yet them still not really delivering the Dark Star goods is a disappointment that will live with me forever. So anyways, I've heard tapes. We heard tapes back then of when they first broke out Dark Star back on the East Coast, and you can't even hear what happens for like the first minute because the crowd is so loud. We never had that moment on the West Coast and then they delivered a Dark Star to end all Dark Stars, right? We never had that moment on the West Coast. Saw them tease it in Shoreline, got a bunch of New Year's Dark Stars that one of them had its moments, but they never really went crazy places. Saw it in Berlin when I went to Berlin, but that still I don't think was one of the best Dark Stars. So anyways, my seeing Dark Star live experience was not as epic as I wanted it to be, which is why Playing in the Band personally ranks as my favorite live song out of the things I saw. But anyways, yeah, that's it. Those are my favorites. Let me know why I'm wrong. Let me know what I need to check out again just so I can appreciate it more. Always looking to appreciate stuff more. But yeah, those are my thoughts on this. Thanks for watching. Comment, subscribe, like, do whatever you want. I really am interested if you check these out. How my opinions match your experience. That's kind of stuff I'm interested in. Plus, if you have suggestions for things I need to check out, please let me know. Always looking for good new music. But anyways, thanks. I've talked way too much. On to a cold drink in a cooler room. Peace, y'all.